friends, Britt here. So here I am in my pajamas editing this video that you're watching when I realized I forgot the most important part of this whole thing, which is the full disclosure that PlayStation provided me a free review copy of Ghost of Tsushima. So thank you, PlayStation, for the review copy. There. Legal butt covered. Hey friends, Britt here. So the review embargo for Ghost of Tsushima is up, which means I can now talk about it, which means I can't possibly wait until Friday for the What's Good Games podcast to release. So I thought it would be fun to knock a few whiskeys back and talk about one of my favorite games of 2020, which is Ghost of Tsushima. Did I just say ghosts? Here's the thing. I've played this game for more than, at this point, I'd say over 55 hours. Like, I love it so much, but I still call it Ghosts of Tsushima. And it is Ghost of Tsushima. Tsushima. So every time I say ghosts, plural, I have to take a shot. So I have my Centauri whiskey, and I'm realizing I don't have a glass. I went downstairs to get one. I forgot one. All I have is this little tin from Tin Cup Whiskey, so I guess we're drinking out of this today. Great. Cheers! Definitely a sipper. Centauri is definitely a sipper, but it's so good, not a shooter. For embargo, I thought it would be cool to kind of give like a little high-level overview of the game and what I thought about it, and also talk about 5 things in particular that really stood out to me that I think might be good for you to know before you start your game, your run-through, your playthrough of Ghost Singular Tsushima. So for those of you who don't know what Ghost of Tsushima is all about, I have a handy-dandy Wikipedia page right in front of me that I'm going to read from while I play a trailer, so you don't have to look at me the whole time. Set on Tsushima Island in the year 1274, the game revolves around one of the island's last samurai, Jin Sakai, during the first Mongol invasion of Japan. The armies of the Mongol Empire, utilizing weapons and military tactics unknown to the Japanese, have conquered and devastated many countries, and Tsushima is all that stands between them and the mainland of Japan. Jin is one of the few survivors of his clan, wiped out while trying to defend the island. With his world shattered, Jin realizes that the way he was trained to fight is useless against such a powerful enemy. Ultimately, he must learn the way of the ghost, an unconventional fighting style that emphasizes small-scale attacks, creating fear in the minds of the enemy, and using their own weapons against them to defeat the Mongols and prevent them from launching a full invasion of the mainland. I think I have a career in VO work, wouldn't you say? Those random accents just work so well. So hopping into Ghost of Tsushima was a little different, and what I mean by that is it was hard to go from Tilu 2, which is such a unique experience in terms of just the way that game plays, to the cinematics, to how story-focused it is. Hopping from that into a game like Ghost, I will admit, it took a little bit to kind of get the groove of what this game was and how I was supposed to play it and how I was supposed to enjoy it. But once I kind of got the hang of it and once I kind of found my place and my pace within Ghosts, dang it, I said ghosts. I mean, I really shouldn't be too disappointed, but, you know, here we are. Oh, once I got into my own ghost groove, if you will, it really just clicked, and I just found myself wanting to explore everywhere, wanting to find everything, wanting to find all the collectibles, all the locations, really appreciating the characters, and just appreciating the quietness and the beauty of this game. It's weird to explain, but I would say Ghost is a beautiful and quiet game. It's a lot of ambient sounds, kind of like how Breath of the Wild is. You don't have a lot of music playing unless you're in a particular cutscene or you approach a certain area on a map. You kind of get that fun little like twang in there, but for the most part, it's just blowing wind and flowing flowers and chirping birds, and it is just beautiful. So speaking of that, that's the number one thing I want to talk about with this game. It's just how effing beautiful it is. I don't think I've ever played a game that's so gorgeous and so beautiful and has incentivized me to use the photo mode before. I'll admit, I always thought photo modes were kind of silly. I did appreciate, and I always have appreciated, the beautiful screenshots that come out of them, but it was never something that I ever had any interest in. It was like, oh cool, that's a nice screenshot, whatever. But this game, I find myself stopping and using photo mode and trying to get that perfect shot and get that perfect angle. Oh my god, So I would implore you, when you play this game, to explore as much as you can manually, aka not use the fast travel system, which is phenomenal in this game. The loading screens are very, very minimal, and I can usually get through like 1 or 2 tooltips before it takes me to my location that I'm trying to fast travel to. It's very quick. But just getting on horseback or even just walking around by yourself and just taking it all in just leads to some of the most beautiful scenes and scenery that you'll just see in a game. I don't know. I'm like literally obsessed with it. In fact, if you go over to PlayStation Blog, and I'll link to this in the description below, there's an awesome post in there from Joanna Wang, who is the environment art lead at Sucker Punch, and she goes into detail about how the team traveled to Tsushima Island multiple times, how they recorded nature sounds and bird sounds, and they even went as far as to photo scan leaves. I think that is just so cool. Like the attention to detail. Before moving on, I just want to say one more thing about the map, and that is that I think this game strikes a really great balance of having those quiet, peaceful moments while you're traversing from point A to point B. Sometimes you won't see anything around you other than lush beauty, but it feels so handcrafted and selected, everything around you, that you kind of can't help but just take it all in, right? As you're moving and grooving across the island of Tsushima. But once you do get to that location that you're trying to get to, whatever it is, whether you make a discovery on a map, you find a village, you find a fox den, you find hot springs, it becomes a fast travel location. So once you do uncover everything, you can just zippity zap, fast travel everywhere. It's just, but explore, for the love of God. Okay, I'm done. Telling you to explore. I'm done. Go explore. So we have this beautiful map in Ghost of Tsushima, but what about the story? I don't know why I'm doing the Austin Powers Dr. Evil thing. That doesn't quite fit there. Anyway, something I'm going to toss to you to think about and possibly implement. A potential recommendation, if you will, is this game does kind of just throw you in the middle of 1274 feudal Japan. And while you don't really need to know much about feudal Japan to appreciate the story, kind of get a grasp of what's going on, I would recommend doing a little bit of historic education. That's what I did, and I found that it really helped deepen my appreciation for the story and what I was seeing all around me, because it's very evident that Sucker Punch did a lot of research from a historical standpoint to kind of nail this as much as they possibly can. I mean, it is a video game, it is a work of fiction, but it's still based off of, obviously, historical events. So what I did is I read about the Mongol invasion of 1274 and of 1281, and I thought that was fascinating. I probably learned about that at some point during my education, but I completely forgot about it. I learned about what the role of a samurai was in that time period. I learned about what the Mongols were all about and who their leaders were and what was driving them. And I did that maybe about 10 to 15 hours into my playthrough. And then when I hopped back in the next day, I was able to pick up on a little bit of fascinating tidbits that I think probably wouldn't have resonated with me had I not learned about the historical accuracies of the Mongol invasion of Tsushima. So go read some pages on the internet, read a book, watch a video, do what you want, but I found that it helped me. The next feature of Ghost of Tsushima that I want to highlight is the combat, because hot damn, I cannot remember the last time I had so much fun slicing and dicing and being stealthy or face tanking. Like, the combat in this game is just so much freaking fun. I think there's a common misconception that you can only play either as the ghost or either as the samurai. So for those of you who don't know, the ghost is the stealthy squirrel assassin type character. Think of like Assassin's Creed, right? Where you're hiding in tall grass, you're assassinating people from above, you're throwing little kunai knives at them, and you're just like being all, I got smoke bombs and I'm so quiet, you never saw me coming. And then you have the honorable samurai, which is more of the face tanky, hand-to-hand melee combat. I'm going to look at you in the eyes while I kill you. I'm going to announce my approach. We're going to engage in standoffs, and it's going to be a bloody good time. But the reality is that you can do both. Like, you can do both at the same time. There's no limitation. You have all of your abilities, whether they're ghost abilities or samurai abilities, at your disposal at all times. I gotta give myself credit. I am usually not one who is very good at the stealth in games. I usually get impatient, and I think to myself, it's just easier to cut everyone down. But the stealth in this game does feel incredibly rewarding, and I think that's because you have a wide variety of tools at your disposal. And I'm not going to go into the specifics of them because I think they're fun and you should discover them on your own. And it's fun to mix and match, and you can do a lot of different things with them. And especially if you have a group of enemies, you're like, ooh, I can really fuck you up in many different ways right now. And it's kind of fun to like pick what you're going to do at that moment. But, so keep an open mind when it comes to the combat. I always thought I would just be the one who goes in and face tanks everything and everyone, because that's like my style. But I'm finding myself really enjoying the stealth mechanics and really getting the hang of them. I would say even maybe a little bit more so than, well, see, I like them kind of equally, because once you do get busted, and I will get busted from time to time, the melee combat is just so satisfying. You know when you're in the middle of like a really intense fight, and you get so into it that you're like whooping and hollering and yelling and screaming because it's so intense and the adrenaline just gets you going. Like, I've had that happen to me so many times while playing this game. Generally, yes, after I get busted from trying to be stealthy. But regardless, it's great whether you're parrying or dodging or throwing something at the enemy or doing one of your epic attacks that you unlocked. Like, it's great. I'm really excited for you to play it, and let me know. Let me know. You know where to find me on Twitter and YouTube or not. Let me know like what playstyle suits you best, because I'm really finding myself switching between the two of them. The next feature I want to talk about is the voice acting. So I am playing in Japanese audio with English subtitles, and I love it so much. I'm so happy with my decision. I love the drama that comes along with Japanese voice acting. It just makes everything seem so much more intense and whoa and powerful, and oh my god, get the blood pumping. I did try the English voice acting about 15 hours in, and I just found it a little too soft-spoken for me. I mean, obviously I was used to the Japanese voice acting, right? But I found that the English voice acting was just a little too quiet, a little too, just lacked the oomph behind it that I was so accustomed to. But I will say that the majority of the English voice actors in Ghost of Tsushima are of Japanese descent, so that's great. You don't have people in the voice booth doing things and making a fool of themselves that shouldn't be there in the first place. So kudos to Sucker Punch for that. So I would encourage you to kind of experiment with both and see what works with you and what doesn't work with you, or for you, rather. Anyway, for my One Piece fans, though, your boy Zoro is in this game. I don't know what, I know what One Piece is. I've just never watched it, so I can't relate. I'm sorry. I'm trying to act like a cool kid, like a cool mom, like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. So if you're a fan of Zoro, you might want to try the Japanese voice acting because he's Jin. He's the main character. It's going to be great. Or it might be distracting. I don't know. Experiment. Try both. Worth mentioning that a downside of doing Japanese audio with English subtitles is that the lips are synced with the English audio. I don't know if this is something that is planned to be patched in the future. I would assume probably not. But, there's a chance if you're listening to Japanese and reading the subtitles down below that you're not paying too much attention to the lips. I will say I have noticed it, and at first I was like, why? What's going on? Like, why is this all off? But it turns out, yes, that the mocap is for the English voice acting. But it might not be too distracting for you. To me, the drama and oomph that comes behind the Japanese voice acting is so worth it that I will put up with some unlined lip flapping all day, every day. The final thing I want to talk about regarding Ghost of Tsushima for this video, again, much more deep dives coming in on this Friday on the What's Good Games podcast, is the Akira Kurosawa mode, because it is freaking awesome. So I admittedly didn't even know who Akira Kurosawa was before Ghost of Tsushima. I didn't even know about the films he had made and how impactful they were and how well regarded they are to this day. And so it prompted me to do a little bit of research on my own and learn about him and who he was and what his legacy is. And so for those of you who don't know, you may have seen the black and white cinematic mode called Kurosawa mode in Ghost of Tsushima. They talked about it, Sucker Punch talked about it a little bit during that last preview trailer or preview video that they did during that state of play. And it's essentially this black and white film grain that you can switch on anytime you want. It's just a little toggle in the options menu. You don't have to like save or load your game or anything. And then it also tweaks with the audio, so it sounds like you're listening to a movie from the 50s. It increases the wind because wind was a big thing in his films, and I'm actually really inspired to check out some of his work. I have a little list of his top movies that I really want to check out, and I found them on, I think it was like Amazon Video or something. So if you have any suggestions, friends, let me know in the comments what I should check out. Entertainment Weekly did a fun interview with Jason Connell and Nate Fox, who are the creative directors behind Ghost of Tsushima, and I'll put a link to that article in the description as well. But it's fun read because they talk about how they had this black and white mode, and they're like, well, what do we do with this? Because they all had been fans, well, not all of them, I shouldn't speak for everyone at Sucker Punch, that wouldn't be right of me. Developers at Sucker Punch, some of them, many of them even, were fans of samurai films, and they're like, dude, what if we could call this the Kurosawa mode? So they went to Kurosawa's estate and got permission, and that's where they added the fun little effects in there. And it's a cool thing. It's a cool little story. And I will say, like, this mode, freaking cool. I wasn't so sure about it at first because, like I was saying earlier, Ghost is such a beautiful game. It's gorgeous, from the biomes to the colors to the little random details that make a world of difference that you find in this game. It's almost a shame to turn that off in the black and white mode because you obviously lose all of that, but it does give you a really cool perspective, and some of the scenes and the way the scenes are laid out and produced really pop in this mode. I would encourage you too, when you play this game, before you start a cutscene, make a save, and then watch it in the full color, and then load it, and then watch it in the Kurosawa mode, and then you can really get appreciation for how it looks. Or if you're feeling really froggy doggy, you could try the whole thing in Kurosawa mode, which honestly isn't a bad idea. I think especially if you grew up watching samurai films like this and black and white films in general, I think you'll have a really great appreciation for it. So yeah, definitely experiment with that as well, because it's fun. It's just da. And that's all I have to say about Ghost of Tsushima in this video. I will see you on this Friday's episode of What's Good Games, where I will have much, much more to say. And I know Steimer and Ree will too. It's gonna be great. See you later. Goodbye. Thank you, Sony, for the review copy.